Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Maya with Simply Bloom. So today I thought I would give you a tour of our apple orchard. We used to have about 60 trees, but then when we were living in Montana, we lost a few, got more to replace, but right now I think we have around 50 or 55 trees that are living. Well, there's more trees that are living, but they died back and they sent suckers from the roots and they're not coming back their true form. So we are actually just going to chop those out and plant new ones in its place. But as of right now, we have around 50-ish, 55, I didn't count properly, 55 trees that are producing and getting fruit from. So I thought I'd just walk you through, show them what they look like, and what I love about them. Okay, the tree that I'm standing in front of right now is the Zestar, and it is my all-time favorite, and everyone who comes to try it, it's their favorite too. It gets just that, it's looking a little bit more red in the camera, but it's just that perfect kind of red apple. Now the side that gets the sun is more red. The side that doesn't get the sun has just kind of like this white yellow appearance. It's nice and crisp. I think one of its parents is the Honey Crisp, but it has like that sweet flavor, but also kind of tangy, that punches just flavor right in your face. And I love it. It's good for fresh eating and baking and absolutely delicious. Okay, this tree is the Norland. It does not have any apples on it because it is our first producing apple of the season. Starts producing a good month before any of the apples do, so it is done. We harvested all the apples. It is softer, quite a bit softer. That's one thing about your early apples, they are more softer, and then as it goes to mid-season and late season, because there are 3 different seasons of apples, they get harder and crispier each season as it goes by. But people love this one because after all winter and all summer of no fresh apples, they go nuts for the first tree. It oxidizes quickly, so that means as you're eating it, the flesh turns brown very quickly. So not a good one to just cut and leave out because it will oxidize, turn brown. Still safe to eat, but it's not super appeasing to the eye. People love to use this one for apple sauces because it is so soft, but great for fresh eating as well. This tree is our Wine Crisp, and it has a very nice shape. You guys, please disregard any shapes. Before I move on, we were gone for 5 years. Living in Montana, someone else, we had a renter here, and they didn't do any pruning, which is fine because it's a lot to handle. But the shape of our trees, for being gone for 5 years and having absolutely no pruning done, it's not necessarily correct. So after 5 years and then we moved back, we couldn't just, well, we could have just whacked the whole tree and did a chop job, but we've been slowly every year pruning it back more and more to slowly bring it to the proper shape and what it should look like. So in that regard, disregard the shape. Most of our trees might not always be proper just because it had such a long stretch with no pruning. Okay, back to the Wine Crisp. We had a bumper crop last year. Like, this thing was loaded. It's a very small apple. Yeah, there's some dead branches in there that need to come out. But it's a smaller apple, very crisp, and it does have a slight wine flavor. There's a bird's nest up there. Can you see it? So people love this one, especially the young ones. Oh, there is an apple. I don't even see it. Yeah, you can see about the size. Very small, not super bright red. Oh, there's a little imperfection. We'll ignore that. But yeah, people love these, especially the young ones that are too young to drink wine because they think they're eating wine instead. This sad, miserable tree is a Honey Crisp, and we had 3 Honey Crisps on the property, 2 left. We will be ripping the last 2 out. They just are not hardy enough for this area. I think they're technically zone 4, we're zone 3. They get diseases easily. They're actually very just not good compared to even the ones in the store. I don't know what the rave is about Honey Crisp. They're fine. I think it's because they're so sweet or so crisp. But there's crisp ones out there that taste so much better, including the Zestar. So I tell everyone, if you're looking at apples, I can help you find one that is better than a Honeycrisp. And the trees just struggle. Trees struggle. They're the first to get diseases. They're the first to get hit. Weak stems, they always break off in a windstorm. So I just tell people, don't get a Honeycrisp. Moving on, this is a Prairie Magic, I think. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, we put labels on all of our trees with a label maker just because we have a lot and it's sometimes hard to keep track. Okay, Prairie Magic. I think Prairie Magics have the most attractive tree shape. It kind of goes out to like an umbrella shape, which I love the way that looks for an apple. I think most of the apples are done. There's a couple in there. Like I said, the ones that don't get any sunlight, they're not as red, but this one, I'll put up a picture. This one's very, very sweet. So if you don't like a tart apple, this is the one for you. It almost has like a pear-like taste, like a mild pear taste. This tree starts producing the first year. A lot of people love that. A lot of apple trees take 3 to 5 years, sometimes even 7 years before they really start producing. But this one will start giving you fruit the first year. All right, Red Duchess. This one was an early apple. Pretty good for fresh eating. I have to say it's not like my all-time favorite. You can see the apples on the ground. You guys, we are getting horses today, so these will not be wasted. We also have another friend we pick up all the apples and give them to, and he feeds them to their livestock. So we're normally better at keeping up with picking up the apples before they go bad, but life happened, so we didn't get to, but they will not be wasted. They will go to feed animals. All right, this is one of the trees I talked about. It was a Sweet 16, which they're supposed to taste like cherries. It just did not survive here. So the main tree died, sent suckers up. They've been growing for probably like 7 years. There's another bird's nest in there. So we already dug a hole there. We have another tree to put in its place. Not the same tree, a different tree, but that will be coming out. Same with this one. This one died. There's another hole to put a new tree in. I cannot remember what this one was. I don't know, not very good. Okay, this is a Goodland. Great for baking. It's more of a pale appearance, doesn't get a lot of color on it. They're kind of small this year. Normally they were a lot bigger. But you know, that happens depending on what the year brings. Lots of dead in it, needs to prune. But overall, this is a good one. I like it for baking, but probably not my favorite. I'll have to tell you my top 5. Moving on to a couple of trees that we planted 2 years ago. This is a rescue apple crab. So what they did is they took a crab apple and crossed it with a normal apple, and they got a rescue crab. Now, I wasn't paying attention and I did not realize how early these ripened. So this is pretty much applesauce hanging on a tree at this point. They are so soft and just not too ripe. You don't want to eat these. So we've been feeding them to our ducks every day. My daughter comes out and takes an apple, breaks it apart, throws it into the duck pond. But when these are ripe, delicious, absolutely incredible. But I noticed once they start to ripen, you really have to harvest them quickly. Some apples, once they start to ripen, you can leave them on the tree for like 3 weeks and they'll just keep intensifying the flavor. But this one was very quick. It was like within a week, it was already too far gone. This one is Kinder Crisp. It has cute little apples. Again, it is still young, so it takes, even though it's producing apples, give it time. The flavor's still developing. They're still going to get bigger every year. So it's hard to tell. I can't give you a real accurate taste description because it is so new and their flavors are developing. So like last year, this tasted like laundry soap, just because it's like wine. The more wine ages, the better it tastes. Same with apples. So I really don't like to give it a yay or a nay for the first probably 5 years, as it's just developing. So in 5 years, check back and I will tell you if this is a good one or not. So far, it's a lot better than last year, so I think it's going to be a winner. Here's another Prairie Magic. I already talked to you about that one. Another Prairie Magic, and you can really see the beautiful shape. I love the shape of those trees. This tree is a Northern Lights, so this is definitely a good example of give it time before you throw it out due to taste. This one was absolutely disgusting. No one could eat it for like 5 years. We had horses, which we're getting more, by the way. That's the horse pasture. We would just pick them and throw them over the fence because they were so gross. Horses loved them though. But now they are crisp, they are sweet, have lots of good flavors. So like I said, don't judge an apple right away. When you first plant it, give it a few years. Give it time. Obviously, there are some that taste better right away than others, but this one's really developed nicely and has really good flavor. All right, this is our state fair. I've done several videos about it already. It is an early to mid-season apple, and these, like I said, these are the ones where it's been ripe for a month and a half, and they are still good, still firm on the tree. They are more softer, but these are good for baking, applesauce, fresh eating, very pretty apple, and I love this tree. This is probably my top 5. This is a Centennial crabapple. I did another video on this one when I was harvesting it. It's getting to the point where it's probably past its prime, but what's good about crab apples, as I talked about, there's 3 different bloom seasons for apples. Crab apples will bloom the whole entire season. So if you have a early season, a mid-season, and a late season apple, plant a crab apple and it will pollinate all of them. Here's another crab. What is this one? Whitney? I think it's a Whitney. It's okay. It's not my favorite compared to Centennial. Centennial is sweet, it's crisp, doesn't taste like a crab apple at all. This one's very mild in flavor, so it's not my favorite. This is a late season apple tree, and I talked about it earlier, but the tree split. And it's hard to see now, but it was all rotten on the inside. So it wasn't even a windy day. It was a completely still day, and it just split right in half. There is a lot of bark connecting it though, so we are still watering it, and we're trying to get it to the point where it can go through a harvest, because late season apples, they need that fall frost. They need that frost for the sugars to intensify. If you were to pick it now, it's very bitter, not good at all. So they need that frost for the sugars to intensify. So I'm trying to limp it by. We're going to keep watering it. Hope there's enough bark there to bring the water up to the apples and leaves, and we'll see what happens. But this is one of my favorite late season apples. I already bought a new one to replace this one. Here's a Haralson, another late season apple. You guys, obviously, we do not thin our apples. And I know that's risky because branches can break, but we hardly ever have branches break. And I know we have a lot of apples, so it's a lot to go through and thin. Should we? Probably. Do we? No. All right, this tree here is Fireside. So at one point, this was the most popular apple for where I lived in northern Minnesota. And it's gorgeous. It's big, it's massive, very aesthetically appealing, has good flavor, crisp, nice white flesh on the inside. Probably in my top 5 or 10 for sure. So very good. I highly recommend this one. This one kind of started leaning in a windstorm, so we have it strapped up to another tree, and we need to fix it. trying to hold it on strong. We did buy another one because I don't know how much longer we can limp this one along, but we'll see. This is a chestnut crab apple. This is probably my second favorite. Centennial is still my first. Very little apples, good for eating, jams, jellies, all that stuff. But Centennial is still my favorite, sorry. All right, here is our second Honeycrisp. And it started to split down the middle 2 years ago. Oh, it looks completely rotten in there. So my husband took a board, bolted it together, another board to support it. That branch died. That's all that's left. And the apples, they're spotty, doesn't look good. Yeah, you see that? I don't know what that is, but they just look diseased. So this one, we are putting it out of its misery, chopping it down and replacing it with something else. Here's another state fair we planted two years ago. Just love those apples. That's the same as this one that I picked over there. Here's a Zestar that we planted this year. It had 1 apple on it. I ate it, it was delicious. Definitely not as good as the mature tree. This is the one that I showed you already. That was my all-time favorite. So we've planted 2 more since then. No, 3 more. So we have 4 total. I am so excited. Okay, so all these next few that I showed you planted 2 years ago. This is right behind my cut flower garden. I leave my sunflowers up because the birds like to eat the seeds, so that's why they look bad, but they're still there. This is a snow sweet. There's 1 apple on it. You can see the color difference between the State Fair and the Snow Sweet. So the State Fair is very attractive. I don't know if this is ready. It's holding on pretty good. If you're not sure when to harvest apples, I'll leave my video link below, but pretty much if they start falling on the ground, or if you do the wiggle test and it stays on strong, if it stays on strong, not ready, if they're dropping on the ground or fall off easily with the wiggle test, then they are ripe. So that might be a late season. I don't know, I'll have to do some research on that one. Next, here's another little apple. Like I said, it can take a few years for them to start producing. So the first few years you might get 1 or 2 apples. Oh, well, this one had more dropped. What is this? Oh, another Prairie Magic. Okay, we have lots of Prairie Magic. Lots of Prairie Magic. This poor thing. That can sometimes happen on a young tree with lots of apples. That's why you probably should thin the fruit, but we just need to get a tree support and support it back up. This is a frostbite. Looks kind of sad, but it'll get there. It will get there. Next one is that 4th Zestar that I told you about, planted 2 years ago. Let me shove this back in. My husband likes to keep them back in there so they don't fade too much. Oh, well, I'll come back later. But yeah, we had a couple apples the first year we planted it. Zestar, it will stop producing for like the next 5 years. So might get 1 or 2 on it if you're lucky, but otherwise it just sits there, looks pretty, and then bam, it will give you apples. Here's another Fireside. Oh, it's a beautiful looking tree. Really gorgeous. Definitely needs some work pruning. Look at all that growth. Holy smokes. But yeah, when you have a branch that goes straight up into the canopy, you don't want that. So next spring, early spring, we will prune those out. Okay, this is not an eating apple. This is an ornamental crab apple. I don't know what it is. It was glorious, absolutely glorious this spring, and you can see all the little berries. It is a white flowering crab apple. I prefer like the red or pink ones, but it was incredible. I'll try to throw up a picture. Picture is when I had foot surgery. I couldn't walk, but I was given a scooter, and I just had to come out early spring and just scooter around my driveway and check out my garden. Okay, so the first two over here. That one and that one are ones. Oh, never mind. This is another flowering crab, snowdrift. Okay, we're not gonna eat that one. I wonder if that's the same as what that one is in that corner. That was so glorious. It kind of sounds familiar, so I think we have two of those. Okay, so this one here, I'm not sure what tree it was, but it died back, came up suckers. So we're gonna take that out, put one of our other fruit trees there. We bought 8 this spring, I think, 8 to 10 that we still need to plant. So those will replace all the ones that have passed. This is a red Baron. It's another one that's okay. It's not my favorite. So if I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna bake with it where I add lots of cinnamon and sugar. You can't eat it fresh. And like I said, it's okay, but no one's a super huge fan of it. Next we have I believe this is the Wodars. Yeah, a Wodars. The apple itself is okay, more of like a green with just a slight blush of red. And again, not superb flavor by all means, but it's fun to try all the varieties. This one here is a yellow transparent, very early. I actually prefer a couple days earlier because I like it more tart. This is another one like the Rescue where once it starts to ripen, get it fast because then it's too far gone, but it has very good flavor. You just need to harvest it and get it in the fridge, and that will help it last longer. This one looks like a plum with how dark it is. People love how dark it is. You can see it up against the other. I'm just carrying this apple around so I can eat it when I'm done doing the video. Very dark, very, I don't know, it's very appealing. The tree itself almost looks like a weeping tree. This one is a Hazen, and this one is my brother's second favorite tree. His first is a Zestar, but then he really loved this one next. And I think he also really loved the color. And it is beautiful. It is really beautiful, especially for fall. This one is a Beacon. Again, it's kind of a darker colored apple, and it's pretty good. Like, I wouldn't say any of them are bad, but I don't think this one quite makes it in my top 5. But it is good. It's a beautiful apple. Good for baking. All right, next we have 3 plums. And I can't really tell you anything about them other than the varieties. No tag on this one. There is a tag here. Pembina. I don't know if that's how you say it. Pembina. And then we have, oh, this poor thing. They look rough. I don't know. It's a stretch to grow plums. This is a pipestone, which is a bummer because 2 years ago, we got like 2 plums. And then this year, all of them were loaded with blooms. They set all these little tiny plums all over them, like hundreds. And then by the end of the year, they're gone. So I don't know if the birds just eat them all or what, but I don't know. They're struggling. It's hard to grow plums in northern Minnesota, I guess. And then we have 2 pears. This one's growing. This is like I think it's called a velvet flower or whatever. I want to chop it down. My husband thinks it's cool. It produces these little yellow flowers, and then it makes these seed pods, which I guess are interesting. But end of the year, that sucker's coming out. This is an early gold pear tree. Planted it this year. I think it's a very pretty looking tree. Then on the other side of our arbor, there's another pear. This is I don't know what this is. There's no tag. Please ignore, we have a fallen oak tree branch. But anyways, so we had 2 pear trees planted on either side of our arbor, which is where we put them. Ignore the fishing supplies there. And then like 2 years after we planted it, that one over there, someone ran it over and snapped it off with a 4-wheeler. Some of our daughter's friends were over. I think he was showing off a little bit, popped a wheelie, smashed it, broke it just clean off the bottom. So we haven't had a pear there for the last 8 years, I think. So we finally got one there planted. Now this one over here, which is growing beautifully, will now have something to pollinate it with. So I'm excited to hopefully get pears next year. Okay, we are now back at where we started, Zestar, which is still my all-time favorite. So I highly recommend Zestar. Otherwise, my top 5 would probably be Zestar, of course, State Fair, which is what I'm holding, Fireside, Centennial Crabapple, and then probably Prairie Magic. No. I don't know. I prefer more apples that have like a kapow kick of flavor. Prairie Magic's definitely more mild, very sweet, but I like the shape, the overall shape of it, and that it produces so well starting its first year. I don't know, that rescue apple crab, not crab apple, the rescue apple crab might be my 5th favorite. That's hard because there's so many good ones. Anyways, that is it for this tour. I know I went kind of quickly. If you have any questions about a certain variety, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer it. Other than that, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.